freedom,
family,
world unity,
all these things and more will be discussed on this podcast.
real stories, real people, real debates. On this podcast, we like to express our freedoms and talk about anything and everything goes.
Like freedom, family is important to us, and anybody that is listening, watching, or coming on the show as a guest star are all considered part of the greatest family to ever bless the solar system, the human race. No matter who you are, where you come from, you will always have a voice here on this podcast.
We like to flex our First Amendment, where all speeches and opinions are accepted for the right of freedom of speech. We have a saying we like to live by. Live life with eyes wide open. Being open-minded leads to true understanding of the world as it really is. Please, come, join us, and enjoy this experience as we embark on this journey of truth as we dismantle the subjective truth. I'm your host, Nick.
And I'm your co-host, Victoria.
And you're experiencing high consciousness.
Disclaimer. Any and all information on topics presented are to the best of all who is present in each episode's knowledge. The goal of this podcast is to bring people together and set the example we all wish to see in our everyday lives. Whether it's home life, education, politics, history, business, etc., any and all subjects can and will be talked and peacefully debated about on this podcast. On debate episodes, there will be a set rules of debate that hosts and guests alike must follow. We ask that you, the audience, like we ask of our guests, in the comments to please try to keep the language as clean as possible. We are a podcast for entertainment as well as educational purposes. Here, we are all equal no matter what race, age, or gender. Thank you, and enjoy the show. Hi there, y'all.
Welcome back.
Welcome to a new episode of
High Consciousness. I'm your host, Nick.
And I'm your co-host, Victoria.
And we are High Consciousness.
Welcome to a new episode, everybody. And today we are going to be opening a new book. It is called
America,
A Narrative History. And it was written by George Brown Tyndall, and that's Tindall. And it was written in 1984. So this is going to be a lot of really great history of, the story collections of America's history.
Not necessarily a story collection. So, I read the little acknowledgments in it, and basically what it's saying is that this genre of story, like history telling, is basically putting a story behind the like a story into the history. Like, so therefore, you can have a better picture of how everything was back then and the characters of our history. It's pretty much how the book is written. It's how Mr. Tyndall over here.
Mm-hmm. Mr. George,
I was about to say William. But Mr. George, how you intended writing this book. So, a little recap on Monday.
We went over the introduction of the U.S. Constitution and went over lots of big events that were turning points in America's history that added to the articles of our Constitution where, where we had, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness with the Declaration of Independence, our Revolutionary War, then, speeding up to the Civil War and talking about, the freedom of the slaves with the Emancipation Proclamation and the 14th and 13th Amendments.
And Abraham's second inaugurational speech is in there. It's pretty much the book that we're reading is the U.S. Constitution, but it's also other writings of our government, and then basically how our government came to be, and how it's supposed to be too. But without further ado, we shall start with Chapter 1 of America, a Narrative History. Chapter 1, the collision of cultures. So basically, I feel like this first chapter is going to be going into the ancient times of America, like before Native Americans, and like how we have the whole. I think it's the Bering Strait? Yeah, the Bering Strait.
The Bering Strait Bridge.
Mm-hmm. The earliest Americans are lost in the midst of time, where legends abound, Like people everywhere, the Native Americans told myths of creation, which varied from tribe to tribe. Some spoke of a habitation in the sky, from which humans and animals had come. Still, others spoke of miraculous events, such as the union of the Sky Father and Earth Mother. In the southwest, the Pueblo people had a place of worship called the Kiva, a stone and pit in which a deeper opening symbolized Sipapu, as far as I can. Sipapu, a place of mystery in the north where people entered the world from underground. Some romancers have had it that.
Whoa, hold up. Read that one more time?
Well, this is what Native Americans believed in their ancient culture. So I'll read that little passage one more time.
Just read that last sentence that you just said about how like
in the southwest of the Pueblo people had a place of worship called the Kiva, a stone pit in which a deeper opening symbolized Sipapu, a place of mystery in the north where people entered the world from underground. Sipapu.
So, is that a hint that, like, the Native Americans, like, believe that there is an entire inner Earth?
Possibly. Well, this is written in 1984, so possibly.
Ooh. Inner Earth. I know it.
Some romancers have had it that the Native Americans came from the mythical lost continents of Atlantis, an ancient legend, or Mu, a modern fantasy. Others that they drifted across from Asia, Africa, or Europe. Their pedigree has been linked variously, but without firm proof, to the Japanese, Chinese, Hindus, Egyptians, the Phoenicians, the Moluccans, the Polynesians, the Scandinavians, and Black Africans, the 10 lost tribes of Israel, or to the Welsh, who followed a fabled prince, Madoc, in the 12th century. Chance contacts across the waters may have occurred. Ecuadorian pottery, dating from about 3000 to 2000 BC, bears a striking resemblance to Japanese pottery of the time. The sweet potato, otherwise particular American plant, grew in Polynesia before modern times, still granting the odds that some culture traits cross the oceans. The likelihood, now almost a certainty, is that there was a real place in the north where Native American people entered the New World, not from underground, but from Siberia to Alaska, either by island hopping across the Bering Strait or over a broad land bridge, Bernigia, from which the waters receded during the Ice Ages. Bernigia must have been the route. Beringia. My bad, I totally slaughtered that. Have been the route by which the horse and the camel, which apparently evolved first in America. Oh, I found there it was right there. That last sentence. There it is.
Wait. Okay. So the camel was here.
And
the sweet
horse
potato was
here first, and
the sweet potato was in Polynesia, and then the Polynesians brought it over here.
Is that what I'm understanding? No. It said it came from America first, but it grew. Otherwise a particular American plant grew in Polynesia before modern times. The sweet potato, otherwise a particular American plant, and then by which the horse and the camel, which apparently evolved first in America.
But I do want to take it back to the other part where the tribes of Israel, like, what? So okay, from the mythical lost colonies of Atlantis, an ancient legend from the mythical lost land continent, okay, an ancient legend, or Mu, a modern fantasy. Others that drifted across from Asia, Africa, Europe. It's been linked variously, but without proof.
Firm proof.
The Japanese, Chinese, Hindus, Egyptians, Phoenicians, Moluccans, 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 the Polynesians, the Scandinavians, and the black Africans are the 10 lost tribes of Israel.
Or to the Wales, who followed the fabled prince Modoc in the 12th century.
Like, that's interesting. Because if the people of Israel, or Israelites in general, are God's chosen people, then that means that everyone in the world is God's chosen people, because there's not really any such thing as a pure pedigree, 100%, one or the other of anything anymore.
Because of the Bering Strait. That's what really disconnected everybody.
That's really interesting.
And the camel and the horse were first evolved in America. The camel and the horse.
Nay! And with the spittoon.
Which evolved first in America, crossed to the old world before they became extinct in the new, and by which the deer and the elephant, the extinct American mammoth, went the other way. There is no evidence to place the origin of Homo sapiens in the New World, nor in the Old World much earlier than 50,000 years ago, although the latter is more controversial. Given the advance and retreat of the ice sheets over North America, a crossing might have been possible 50 to 40,000 years ago, but the most likely time for the latest crossing would have been just the last heavy ice coverage 18 to 16,000 years ago, when people could still walk across and then filter southwards toward warmth through passages in the melting ice. Once the ice sheets melted and the sea rose again, these pre-Mongoloid migrants were cut off from the rest of humanity, except for the short-lived Viking settlements on Greenland and Newfoundland, until Columbus came in 1492. But those long eons but the only written records are the relatively late pictographs of Middle America, remnant of a much larger body of writings which the Spanish conquerors destroyed in order to wipe out the memory of heathen beliefs and practices. Most of these writings, mainly Aztec and Mayan, remain undeciphered. The story therefore remains in the realm of prehistory, the domain of archaeologists and anthropologists who must salvage a record from the rubble of the past. Stone tools and weapons, bones, pottery, figurines, ancient dwellings, burial places, scraps of textile, and basketry, and finally, bits of oral traditions and the reports of early explorers, all placed together with the adhesive of informed guesswork. And then this book also has maps.
That's a good
maps.
A lot. Wow.
Has a map of the Bering Strait, which is right here. That would be like how they got to America and were able to spread during the Ice Age. And then the bottom part, which is right here, it is a mask that was one of the myths of times that carved is a jade mask of the Olmec culture found in Chiapas, Mexico. Museum of the American Indian High Foundation. High Foundation.
High as in H-I-G-H?
H-E-Y-E.
H-E-Y-E, really?
See?
Oh, like high consciousness.
Alright, that was the first little segment. Not the second one. Pre-Columbian Indian Native American civilizations. Archaeological digs add yearly to the fragments of knowledge about pre-Columbian America. The richest finds have been made on either side of the Isthmus of Panama, where Native American civilizations peaked in the high altitudes of Mexico and Peru. Indeed, it has been possible to reconstruct a remarkable sequence of events in pre-Columbian Middle America. A story of successful peoples who built great empires in a monumental agriculture, supported by large-scale agriculture in a far-flung commerce. The
You
Olmecs,
might want to read that one more time. Just that last sentence.
I mean, indeed, it has been possible to reconstruct a remarkable sequence of events in pre-Columbian Middle America, a story of successful peoples who built great empires in a monumental architectural supported by large-scale agriculture and a far-flung commerce. The Olmecs, Mayas, the Toltecs, Aztecs, Incas, and others.
Wow.
Early cultural stages. On either side of these peaks of civilization, Native American life at the time of the discovery dwindled into more primitive forms. By the best recent events estimates about 100 to 112 million people lived in the Western Hemisphere. About 10 to 12 million, or 10%, in what is now the United States. Their cultures range from those of Stone Age nomads to the life of settled communities, which practice agriculture. Many have passed the early cultural stages defined by early culture stages. On either side of these peaks of civilization, Native American life at the time of discovery dwindled into more primitive forms. On either side of these peaks of civilization, Indian life at the time of discovery dwindled into more primitive forms. By the best recent estimates, about 100 to 112 million people lived in the Western Hemisphere. About 10 to 12 million, or 10%, of what is now the United States. Their cultures ranged from those of Stone Age nomads to the life of settled communities which practiced agriculture. Many had passed the earlier culture stage defined by archaeologists as Lithic, Stone Age, and Archaic, which meaning hunting and gathering, had reached the formative stage of settled agriculture. Although none of them ever achieved the heights of the cultures to the south. The Lithic stage lasted to about 5,000 BC. Remnants of stone choppers and scrappers, similar to artifacts found in Siberia, suggest the presence of people long before the development by about 9,500 BC. Projectile points for use on spears and later. On arrows, with the invention of projectiles, early man entered the age of the big game hunters, who reached across most of the Americas, chasing down mammoths, bisons, deer, and antelopes. As hunting and gathering became a way of life, diet became more varied.
Wait, we had antelopes?
Yes.
America had antelopes? Wild antelopes? I thought that was just in Africa or Australia.
No. You can look it up. Look it up. Look up the origins of an antelope. I will guarantee you it'll be in America. And folks, while she's looking up this, I'm going to grab me a drink.
Okay, so the origins of the antelope. I'm
pretty sure it's talking about.
Okay, it says its origins are Africa, India, the Middle East, Central Asia, and a small area of. It still can't be sold.
Sorry, Wikipedia.
Okay, cool. I don't care. Part of Eastern Europe. The true antelopes, a gazella, or Nanger eudorcas, and antelope. Okay. They're known as true antelopes, and one North American mammal, the pronghorn antelope, is colloquially referred to as the American antelope, despite the fact that it belongs to a completely different family than the true Old World antelopes. Okay, so
that's probably what it's talking about then.
Okay, so yeah, we had American antelopes. They're extinct. They're gone.
And they're gone.
And they're gone.
And they are true antelopes. As hunting and gathering became a way of life, diet became more varied. Varied. It included a number of small creatures such as raccoons, possums, along with fish, shellfish. Archaic hooks, nets, and wires have been found to confirm this. And wild plants, nuts, greens, berries, fruits in season. The archaic Native Americans became to settle down in permanent or semi-permanent villages. They invented snares, basketries, and mills for grinding nuts. They domesticated the dogs and the turkeys, or as some would have it, the dog who knew a soft touch when he saw one, domesticated its master. In Southern California, then as now relatively well-populated tribes were able to specialize in sea animals, shellfish and acorns in some places. In fact, the archaic stage persisted into very recent times, specifically until August 27th, 1911.
Well, that's very precise.
When a primitive man named Ishi, the last wild Native American, left the woods and stumbled into a white settlement at 70 miles north of Sacramento, California.
Ooh.
The formative stage replaced the archaic by definition, which the introduction of farming and pottery. In these developments, Middle Americans got the jump on the tribes further north and became the center of innovation and cultural diffusion. By about 5000 BC, Indians of the Mexican highlands were cultivating or gathering plant foods that became the staples of the New World. Chiefly maize, Indian corn, beans and squash, but also such plants as chili peppers, avocados, pumpkins, and many more. These were developed into the forms not familiar by crossbreeding, accidental in part, but believed to have been also the product of experiments by Native Americans' horticultures. Maize, for instance, became as an ancient Mexican grass, which crossbred with another grass to produce teosinte?
Teosinte.
Yeah. Countless across of maize with teosinte over the centuries produced the types of Native American corn which the Europeans found later. The Mayans, Aztecs, and Incas Yeah, that's how corn was invented, crossbreeding by accident. The Mayans, Aztecs, and Incas by about 2000 to 1500 BC. Permanent towns dependent on farming had appeared in Mexico, and so had pottery, which possibly diffused northward from Ecuador. The more settled life, in turn, provided leisure for more complex cultures, for the cultivation of religion, crafts, art, science, administration, and warfare. A stratified social structure began to emerge. From about AD 300 to 900 AD, Middle America reached the flowering of its classic cultures, with great centers of religion, gigantic pyramids, temple complexes, and court for ceremonial games, all supported by the surrounding peasant villages. Life centered in the cities of Teotihuacan and Monte Alban, and the Mayan cultures of present-day Yucatan and Guatemala.
Yucatan, like toucan, but you say Yucatan. Yucatan.
You see, folks, she keeps picking on me. Went as far as stopping the episode, alright? Should I go on?
Yucatan?
I don't know. I can. And what about Guatemala? Or guacamole?
Well, Guatemala about Guatemala.
The Mayans had developed enough mathematics, including a symbol for zero, and astronomy to devise a calendar more accurate than Europeans were still using at the time of Columbus. Then about 900 AD, for reasons unknown, the classic cultures collapsed and the religious centers were abandoned. The Toltecs, a warlike people, conquered most of the region, but around 1200 AD, they too withdrew for reasons unknown. During the time of troubles that followed, the Aztecs arrived from somewhere to the northwest, founded the city of Tenochtitlan. Tenoch. Yeah, come on, say it. You huffing and puffing. Come on.
Tenochtitlan.
Yeah, well, what was that?
Tenochtitlan.
You said Ch1.1. I could.
Chitlin.
You said Juan.
Teotihuacan.
Ch1.1.
Teotihuacan.
Ch1.1.
Yes.
Teo-
Like Teotihuacan, Teotihuacan.
No, I'm just gonna say Mexico City.
Which is now Mexico City.
Yep, so Mexico City.
You have to say Teo whatever.
Now
because that's what it used to be named.
And
now today, as we know it, is Mexico City.
Yep, and I know it's Mexico City. Traditionally in 1325 and gradually expanded their control over central Mexico. When the Spaniards arrived in 1519, the Aztec Empire under Montezuma II ruled over perhaps 5 million people. Estimates range as high as 20 million. They were held in fairly loose subjugation for the sake of trade and tribute, and for the sake of captives to sacrifice on the altars of their bloodthirsty sun god. Huitzilopochtli. Yeah, say, help me out here, because I'm going to slaughter it. It has a Z and a P and an I at the end of it. Come on.
Hold up.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Huitzilopochtli.
Say it again. And
Huitzilopochtli.
Hutzi.
Huitzilopochtli.
That's one heck of a name.
Huitzilopochtli.
That's one heck of a sun god.
Symbolized by the hummingbird. Okay, bloodthirsty sun god.
Is a
hummingbird. That's what we're gonna say.
Bloodthirsty sun god. That's a
bloodthirsty
hummingbird.
Hummingbird sun god. No wonder why you have to, make their water red. Ooh, that's right. All hummingbird feeders have red to make it seem red to the... Ooh, where the ancient world is still alive today with the hummingbird feeders even. Ooh!
Yeah, and I bet you... Okay, and look up what's in that nectar of the hummingbird.
Sugar and water, and you put red food dye in it to attract the hummingbirds.
Put red dye in it, huh?
Uh-huh.
Red dye, that's it? Nothing else in that red dye?
Sugar, water, red dye. That's it.
To feed and strengthen him for his daily journey across the sky. Because their culture was heir to the technology, arts, and religions of previous people, in Middle America, the Aztecs are sometimes compared to the ancient Romans in contrast to the more creative Mayas who were the Greeks of the New World. Further south, in what is now they're comparing the two tribes. How they were to like Aztecs were like the Romans and the Mayans were like the Greeks.
That's pretty interesting. The Mayans were... Wait, does it say that the Mayans were the ones that were the ones that sacrificed people?
No,
that was the Aztecs?
That was the Aztecs.
So that's again where it patches back to Secret Destiny of America, where he says that the Mayans didn't really do sacrifices when we were talking in that chapter with the Mayans. It was the Aztecs that did a whole lot of sacrificing. Mm-hmm. And even Secret Destiny of America, Manly P. Hall says that.
Mm-hmm. Further south in what is now Colombia, the Chichibas How else were you gonna say that? Cheap shots?
Cheap shots.
Cheap shots?
Chip shots?
No, cheap shots.
Cheap shots. You mean the cheap fake?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, funny. Cheap shot.
I'm sorry.
Hey, I mean, I don't know how else to say that. Cheap shots.
It's chip cha.
Chip chop?
Chip cha.
But it has an S.
C-H-I...
But it has an S at the end of it.
Chip chas.
Yeah, chip shots.
C-H-I-B-C-H-A-S.
Yeah, cheap shots.
Mm-hmm. Chip chas.
Built a similar empire on a smaller scale. Still further south, the Ch1.1 people, better known by the name of their ruler, the Inca, by the 15th century controlled an empire and stretched 1,000 miles along the Andes Mountains from Ecuador to Chile, connected by a labyrinth system of roads and organized under an autocratic government which dominated life about as fully as any totalitarian state of the 12th century. So yes, basically the Q-Quad were the Incas. Indian cultures, North American cultures of North America. The peoples of the present day in the United States reached the formative stage only in the last 1,000 years before Christ. They were three identifiable cultures speaks. The Hopewell culture of the Northeast, 800 BC to 600 AD. The Mississippi of the Southeast, AD 600 to 1500 AD. And the Pablo Hohokam.
Hohokam.
Hohokam. Well,
Hohokam.
I'm about to say it. That's what I said. Calm. You said con. There's no N. That's an M.
I couldn't see it at first.
Culture of the Southwest, 400 BC to present day. Present day in 1984.
1984 present day.
Yeah, none of these ever reached the heights of the classic stage in Middle America. Although they showed stronger influence from there, and they retreated for the most part back into an archaic formative stage, in which the English settlers found the first tribes with which they came in contact. The halting transition from archaic to formative in the eastern woodland cultures is marked in the remains by such innovations as pottery, agriculture, earthen burial mounds, and tobacco and the smoking pipe. The Edna culture, centered in the Ohio Valley, was older but overlapped the similar Hopewell in the same area. The Edna Hopewell peoples left behind enormous, and to the early settlers mysterious earthworks and burial mounds, sometimes elaborately shaped like giant snakes, birds, or animals. Evidence found in the mounds suggests a developed social structure and a symbolized division of labor. There were signs, too, of an elaborate trade network which spanned the continent. The Hopewellians made ceremonial blades from Rocky Mountain obsidian, bowls from seashells of the Gulf in Atlantic, ornamental still houses of hands, claws, and animals from Appalachian mica, Barrett's plates, gorgets, and ornaments from copper found near Lake Superior. The northeastern Native Americans at the time of colonization were distant heirs to the Hopewellian culture. After its decline, Algonquin tribes of the coastal areas, and more directly perhaps even by direct descent, the tribes making up the Iroquois Leagues of Five Nations, a federation formed after 1600 as a result of their first contact with the French. The Mississippi culture of the Southeast, which centered in the Mississippi Valley, probably derived its impulse from the Hopewellians, but reached its heights later and under greater influences from Middle America. In its intensive agriculture, its pottery, its temple mounds vaguely resembling pyramids, and in death cults, which involve human torture and sacrifice, the Mississippian culture peaked in the 14th and 15th centuries after the European discovery, and possibly collapsed finally as the result of disease transmitted from European contacts. So basically, this first little chapter right here is legitimately like telling all the stories of all the Native Americans in America, from North America to Central America to South America.
That's a whole lot.
It is. It's a lot to keep up with. Like, can you name? You can have the
You have the Iroquois, the Teotihuacans, you have the
Mayans,
the
Aztecs,
the Aztecs, the Olmecs, the
Incas.
Tolmecs, the Incas. Like, you got a bunch of them.
And that's just in Central America, Middle America. We're just now getting to North America, and there's 5. The Hopewellians, the
Iroquois.
The Iroquois, the Mississippis,
Mm-hmm.
the Mississippi tribes. Whew. This is a lot. A lot of cultures.
I'll say.
Huh. All the people of the Southwest and far into the Midwest were touched by the Mississippi culture. And as late as the 18th century, tribes of the Southeast still practiced their annual busk or green corn ceremony, a ritual of renewal in which pottery was smashed, dwellings cleaned out, all fires were quenched, and a new fire kindled in the temple. The Mississippian traditions lingered among Musconian peoples of the Gulf area, the Chickasaws, Creeks, and Chickasaws, but they also touched the Cherokees and the Algonquinians.
Algonquins.
Well, it has an IAN on the end of it.
Algonquinians.
Yes, yeah, see? Yeah, and I said it right the first time.
Sorry.
In the eastern Sioux. Yeah.
Sioux?
Yeah, Sioux.
Sioux.
Eastern Sioux tribes near the South Atlantic seaboard. The greatest capacity for survival in their homeland was displayed by the irrigation-based cultures of the arid Southwest, elements of which persist today, and hairs of which the Hopsis, Sooners, and others still live in the Abo pueblos of their ancestors.
The what?
The Abos, Adobe,
Adobes.
Pueblos.
Mm-hmm.
And still live in the Abdos Pueblos of their ancestors.
In the Adobe Pueblos of their ancestors.
The formative cultures of the Southwest, the closely related Mongolian, Hohokam, and the Anunnaki, the ancient ones in Navajo language, derived from a desert archaic culture called the Cochise, and from contacts with Middle America, perhaps even from pre-conquest Mexican outposts. The most widespread and best known of the cultures, the Anunnaki, centered around the Four Corners, where the states of Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, and Utah now meet. Like other peoples of the formative stage, they never grew up the Arctic patterns of hunting and gathering, eating small animals, rodents, reptiles, birds, and insects, along with seeds, mesquite, beans, peon nuts, yucca fruits, and berries. With the coming of culture, they practiced techniques of dry farming under the traces of groundwater and catching the runoff in garden terraces, or in the case of the Hohokam, extensive irrigation works. Housing evolved from the Mongolian pit houses, which suggested the later kivas, where religious observance were held, and developed into the banked mud adobe structures, which grew 4 and 5 stories high and were sometimes located as at Mesa Verde, Colorado, in canyons underneath protective cliffs. And yes, as you can see right here, that's what it would look like.
Oh, it looks like the Dogon tribe people.
Mm-hmm.
Like what they do over there. This is the ruins of the Anasazi. You can't really see it. The camera doesn't really do it much justice.
No.
But
you can look it up.
But you can look it up. The ruins of the Anasazi cliff dwellings. That's what those are.
Mm-hmm. At Mesa Verde in Colorado.
Oh, wow, that's in Colorado?
Yeah.
That's still there today, I wonder?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I mean, why wouldn't it be there today? In contrast to the Middle American and Mississippi cultures, Anasazi society lacked a rigid class structure. The religious leaders and warriors labored much as the rest of the people. In fact, warfare was little pursued except in self-defense. Hopi means the peaceful people, and there was little evidence of human sacrifice or human trophies. There is evidence, however, that a lengthy drought, 1276 through 1299, and the pressure of new arrivals from the north, about 1300, began to restrict Anasazi territory. Anasazi territory. Into their peaceful world came the aggressive Navajos and Apaches, followed 2 centuries later by Spaniards marching up from the south. When the whites came, even the most developed Native American societies were ill-equipped to resist these dynamic European cultures, invading their world. There were large and fatal gaps in their knowledge and technology. Mongolian Native Americans had invented etching, but the wheel was found in the New World only on a few toys. The Native Americans of Mexico had copper and bronze, but no iron except a few specimens of meteorites. Messages were conveyed by patterns and beads in the northeast and by knotted cords among the Incas, but there was no alphabet or any true writing save the hieroglyphs of Middle America. The Aborigines had domestic dogs, turkeys, and llamas. What?
Aborigines.
Mm-hmm. Llamas, but horses were unknown until the Spaniards came astride their enormous dogs. Disunity everywhere, civil disorder, and rebellious plagued even the Aztecs and Incas, left the people of the New World open to division and conquest. North of Mexico, the nearest approach to organized government on a wide scale was the Iroquois League of the Five Nations, with weaker pillars like the Greek Confederacy of the Gulf Plains and the late 16th century Powhatan Confederacy of Virginia. But as it turned out, the centralized societies to the south were as vulnerable as the scattered tribes further north. The captive or death of their rulers, one usually found and followed the other, left them in disarray and subjection. The scattered tribes of North America had the whites pay more dearly for their conquest, but when open conflict erupted, the bow and arrow were seldom a match for guns anywhere.
Oof. Yikes. And I guess that would be a good stopping point. And then we move on to chapter 1.2.
Yeah, I guess so. Any input on that?
That's really interesting. So, camels were originated here. Antelopes, well, we had our own version of antelopes at one point.
Corn.
We created corn, or the Native American version of corn, which the whole reason why corn was even invented, it wasn't even invented by people. It was invented by nature.
By accident.
Like, that's really cool. And it started right here in America. It's kind of like, that Project Blue Book alien, when he said, that one cell, right before it died, it split off and it just so happened to create the happenstance for life on our planet. It's kind of like the same thing, but it applied for corn. That one gene decided to split with that other gene, and those two got together and, made corn. Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool. Oh.
But it shows how, like, each Native American tribes were, one was more civilized than the other, but the other one had other things going for it. And it was really diverse in how each culture worked, if that makes sense.
The Mayans had a calendar system that in mathematics that were more accurate than the European system. Like, what?
I mean, that's still true to this day. I mean, they can't deny it.
No.
We can't deny that. And the simple fact that, it's... I don't know. It's just the fact that, like, everyone believes that there's two conspiracy theories going on, that Native American people came from the lost city of Atlantis and then the Bering Sea. It's the Bering Strait.
Or the land of Mu. Or that they came from both.
Mm-hmm.
Because apparently the land of Mu also sank along with Lemuria and Atlantis. These three big continents, these three missing continents that apparently we used to have. That's where all the Native American tribes all come from. Supposedly.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I was just... Because the book just doesn't really know when was the very first human, society, I guess. It dates back from 50,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
From what the book says, so... That's pretty... It's pretty interesting stuff, folks. I won't say that much.
And how there was, there's Serpent's Mound, which on Graham Hancock's Ancient Apocalypse Netflix series, he talks about, Serpent's Mound over there in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
That is really cool. And
it also, in the book also, there's other mounds that have different shapes of animals, so I wonder where those are at.
Me too, because Graham only went over just the one.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I didn't even know that there was even more other than, the Nazca lines, which I know we have some of them, but they're in other places too. So, lots of history that just, keeps rounding right back to the last book that we read, which is actually pretty cool. We did not plan this. We did not expect this. Not only does the Constitution go routing back right back to the Secret Destiny of America, but also a narrative history of America goes back to what things Manly P. Hall talked about within Secret Destiny of America about the Mayans and the Aztecs.
And Atlantis. But like I said, this is the first chapter, first segment is only going through, ancient times of America. It's legitimately going to take us through all times through America.
Yep, from the very beginning all the way up to 1984, which would be around the time of Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan.
Yeah. So, stick with us through this book. If you like this book, please leave likes, leave comments. If you have any questions, please let us know. Hit the subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you're always notified whenever we have new videos. Thank y'all so much for watching. We really appreciate all the support.
Mm-hmm. And with that, we say thank you.
And don't forget to
live
life with eyes wide open. Thanks, y'all. Have a good one.